Hey everyone, and welcome back to Oh That Girl Reads, where we read what we love and DNF the rest. I am your host, Bria. I am also that girl, and today you know what, I missed you guys. I have just been recently very, very ill. I had the icky flu, all thanks to the Jonas Brothers. I blame them. I blame their fans. I it is all their fault. Specifically, you know what? Since we're blaming Joe for a bunch of things right now, it's Joe's fault. We don't like him right now. Okay? He's yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I was sick for a really long time, and honestly, I'm like a miserable sick person. I I am just I'm moody. I cried for like 2 days because like I was sick. And I think like when you're sick, like all you think about is like the days that you were healthy. And I literally was like, I can't like record anything. I'm like literally stuck in bed, not able to do anything but lay there. And I know I really do believe in the idea that like your body will tell you when you need the rest. And I was on my 2008 Pitbull era. I was going out dancing every night. I was hanging out with friends. Like I started dating again, like all this crazy shit. And so I was like wilding. I was wilding out. I'm not going to lie. Like and so of course my body was like, "Okay, this concert, it's the last thing that I can take from you. You crazy bitch. This is the last thing I can do. I can't fight any more germs. I can't fight anything else. You are going to get the flu right now." And so I didn't dance for like, I guess at that point it's been like a few weeks since I've socially danced. Um because right before I got sick, like I went to the concert and I was like, "Oh, like I want to go out dancing," and my sister Brooke was supposed to come with me. And I was just like, I'm not really feeling that great. I feel really tired. I don't want to like I don't want to go dancing. And so we didn't. And then the next morning out. And so I didn't go social dancing for maybe like 3 weeks at this point. I'm going tomorrow. But yeah, I haven't gone social dancing for like 3 weeks. And then on top of that, like my ballroom lessons, like I wasn't doing those. I had canceled twice because um my card got stolen the first time that I was supposed to have a lesson, and then I had a lesson in between, I think, and then I had to cancel my lesson because I got sick, and then so I just haven't been really consistent with my ballroom lessons either, and so I just miss dancing, and so I didn't get to dance, so I was sad about that while I was sick, and then I didn't get to record anything. Like my schedule for the podcast got thrown off a little bit. You guys aren't going to notice because I'm a professional, obviously. But uh my scheduling for it just got thrown off, and I was just really sad about that. And so I've learned recently though that I have a lot of trauma around my voice and the ability to use my voice. And so I think the podcast has become a place where I'm consistently using my voice, consistently sharing my opinions and being really open. And I think not having that place for a while was just really, really like triggering for me. And I was like just falling apart low key. Um, but okay, so obviously you guys don't experience me like this because I have to be a personality, right? When I'm like on the podcast. But recently I've gotten so sad because I've been getting like little feedback here and there, and it's not negative. It's not meant to be negative when I've received it. They're just like tiny little comments about like me being closed off, and it made me so sad. And like I don't know, it just like activated like a really sad like childhood wound in me where I'm kind of like, oh, I'm like so closed off and guarded, which I can be, like I really can be, but I think it made me sad recently. And so I've been thinking about that a lot, especially today because I am actually going to go on a date with someone new. What? We're going on a date. I've not talked about books yet. I'm sorry. We will talk about books. I promise. There's I miss you guys. Um, but yeah, I am going on a date, and it is with a woman. I guess you guys. Do you guys know this about me? Am I like that? I don't know. I've never been like the person who's like, I'm bisexual. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, unless it's like really necessary. If I do post a photo of Kristen Stewart, I will mention how gay I am for Kristen Stewart. I will mention it. I fucking love that woman. I love her so much. But anyway, I am a little, you know what I'm saying? And so I've recently is kind of like, okay, like I need to like explore this like part of myself a little bit more. I've mostly like dated men. And so I am going to go on a date with a woman. And so I've just been like thinking about it. I'm like, okay, like how open do I want to be with this person? Because it's a new person. And I'm like scared. I'm scared of people, low key. So I'm scared of people in general. I not scared of people. I think it's more so just like I'm not super open with people. I'm very guarded. I'm going to observe you first and then I will engage with you as I see fit, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just how I am and I'm not trying to like judge myself for it, but it does make me sad to feel like, I'm not super open. And I realize that a lot of the friends that I have or like a lot of people that I connect with, their main personality traits is that like they're able to share things about themselves super willingly. It does take me a while to warm up to be able to do that with them, but I just noticed like that's like kind of like the personality type that I tend to be drawn to. Hopefully this date goes well and that they're kind of like a little bit more of like an open person, because I can force myself to be open and be more of like an extrovert, but it does take work and it does make me tired. And but anyway, I am going to go dancing tomorrow too, so I'm getting back to my normal life and my normal just like thing. I'm gonna go dancing tomorrow, and then Friday I have my ballroom lesson on international standard. Very excited. And then there's like they have like a group class and then a practice party after that, so I'll hang out for that. And then Saturday I have therapy and another date in the evening with a different person. We're gonna go swing dancing. I'm okay at swing. I'm like okay at swing. Like that's kind of like the first dance that I actually really learned how to do and perform. So that was kind of cool. Or that's gonna be kind of cool. And then Sunday, I think I need to, after having like all that sort of activity, I'm gonna need like a Bria week. I also have a job interview. Oh my God, I have a job interview tomorrow as well. So there's a lot of cool things happening this week. Obviously, my life just went from like being super sick in bed to then like launching back into being involved with people. But because I was super sick in bed, we're getting back to the point. I actually finished a book that took me damn near 8 months to finish. And that is this honky chonky girl here, Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Okay. If you don't know, I'll read the back for you in a really classical, sexy way. So here you go. The House of Berethnet has ruled Innis for 1,000 years. Still unwed, Queen Sabran IX must conceive a daughter to protect her realm from the destruction. But assassins are getting closer to her door. Iad Durin is an outsider at court. Though she has risen to the position of lady-in-waiting, she is loyal to a hidden society of mages. Iad keeps a watchful eye on Sabran, secretly protecting her with forbidden magic. Across the sea, Tane has trained to be a dragon rider since she was a child, but is forced to make a choice that could see her life unravel. Meanwhile, the divided East and West refuse to parley, and forces of chaos are rising from their sleep. Did you like my sexy read? I stuttered over a bunch of it, but you know what? I will get better at those. I also don't feel like redoing it because my voice is still trying to recover. Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to give you guys a formal review because of a few factors. Okay, first off, made a new friend recently and they absolutely loved Priory. Hi, Michelle. Michelle absolutely loved Priory. And I started reading Priory with Dina. Y'all know Dina. She's my babe. She's my boo. And we started that buddy read in February of 2023. I bought this book and attempted to read this. I looked at my personal Instagram. I attempted to read this book a few times. It was on like 3 different months TBRs, but I just think like there were so many like fluffy romances that were out at the time. And then I think it was out at the time, that, and I think like that was also 800 pages, and this was also 800 pages. So I was like, I am not doing that. And so I didn't read it, and that was in 2022. So I got this book in like 2022, didn't start reading it until February 2023 was when Dina and I decided that this was going to be our buddy read for March. Dina actually put together a beautiful schedule. Okay, a beautiful schedule for us to finish this book by the end of March 2023. Literally, she was like, listen, girl, if we read this many pages per week, we will get this done by the end of March, because in March we had 5 weeks this year. And I was like, girl, perfect. And we were dragging. Like, okay, first of all, Dina be reading, okay? Like, she has so many books on lock, and she reads multiple books at one time. And so, like, she would kind of like bounce between her books, and then she's just kind of like, okay, I read this much, and then I'd be like, okay, I read this much. And it's just like the beginning was just like it was not it. First of all, like, towards the beginning, like, there was no characters that I even remotely enjoyed. Like, I loved Tene, because like we kind of like, I don't know, she was interesting and dynamic. I didn't really like get into it until we met like Eid and Sabran. And so, but even then, like, at a certain point, I think it rounded around, we kept on pushing it back until it was like May. And then I was like, Dina, girl, I gotta tap out of this book. I have to set myself free. And by that time, I was like halfway into the book. Like, I was like halfway into the book. And like, I had to wait maybe about 50 to 100 pages. If I just waited 50 to 100 pages, I would have finished that book in like 3 days, because I finished the book in about 3 days while I was sick. I did have both the audiobook and the physical books, and so I think that helped me out a little bit more. It made the experience a little bit more entertaining for me, because just like Samantha Shannon's writing style, it's more telling than showing. And so it's hard for me to get like emotionally invested in something when I'm just like being told something. But I feel like audiobooks are cool because it feels like you're just gossiping with somebody. I think that's like why I like podcasts, is because like you kind of feel like you're just like gossiping, you know? And so like they're like telling you this story, and they're like, you know, this person said this and this person said this, and then now we're going over here, and then we were at this place. And so it feels a little bit better when like the writing style is like telling, when you're listening to it as an audiobook, because then it kind of takes on a different form of storytelling that just feels a little bit better to experience. And so that's kind of like what my experience has been with reading the Priories. Like, the audiobook really helped me kind of get through it, because otherwise the pacing was like kind of slow, but in the end I think it was really worth it, and I actually really enjoyed it at the end, surprisingly. I honestly, the reason why I picked it back up was because met Michelle, and Michelle was like, oh my gosh, I really love this book. And I was like, oh, like I read it, things like that. And she was just kind of like describing like the things that she enjoyed about it, the elements that she liked about it. And I am an annotator. And so after she was talking about it, I picked up the book, and I was just kind of like flipping through the annotations, because I was like, do I want to pick this up again? Do I not want to pick this up again? And I came across this like little spot in the book, this like little moment that literally described me to a T. I'm not going to, okay, so if you want to know what the moment is, you can go over to the Oh That Girl Reads TikTok and take a look. But I'm gonna stop talking about it, because like I feel like I want other people to experience the line the way I experienced it, okay? Because I reread this line and I was like sobbing on the floor. I was like crying. I was like, oh my God. And I forgot that I annotated that part, but like it just resonated so deeply with me. And I was just crying. I was just crying on the floor. I was like holding it. I was like, oh my God. And it was weird, the timing in which this line came. I was like literally having such a debate about like my own identity as like a queer person, as a bisexual person. I don't even know, like but this line just kind of like solidified something in me that kind of like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So I don't know, I don't know. I think it's great. I also really so I'm like bouncing all over the place. But I really do hope to have the girls on for like a real good book chat because I mean Michelle's like really into this book, and then Dina is also really into this book, or she's not into it, she didn't really like it, but she had a great perspective, and I think it'd be kind of fun to talk about it, like have like a book discussion about it, because like I'm in the middle of their two opinions, like where I'm like I have some heavy criticisms of it in terms of like, you know, the style, the pacing, the quality, not the quality, just like the what's the word I'm looking for, the purpose of some characters. I'm kind of like, did we need them? And like, you know what I'm saying, like what was important. Like I have some thoughts about like in terms of like how much book was needed in order to tell this story. But I did hear that there's actually some conspiracy that it's like the typeset that they used in order to make this book look a little bit more hefty, more of like an aesthetic choice rather than like the actual needed necessary pages in order to print this book. I think the book only clocks in around 260,000 words. Someone was like, I was reading someone's comment, and they were like, oh yeah, for all you fan fiction readers, you've read fan fictions longer than this. This only clocks in at 260,000 words. And I was like, I was like, thank you for letting me know. But yeah, no, it was so because I'm like in the middle of those two's opinions. I feel like it would be really cool to kind of have them on and do like a book chat type situation. I think it'd be like a really cool dynamic episode. So I'm gonna work with them to kind of figure out that. So I'm not gonna give like a full review on it. But what was interesting to me was the fact that I was introduced to this book through TikTok. Okay. And at the time I was mostly reading like romantasy, just especially stuff that involved vampires. You guys know I'm a vampire girl. Vampires are just like fuck yes. But I was mostly reading like romantasy, things like that, and I kind of wanted to jump into more of like the high fantasy side of things. And so it was interesting because a woman that I followed, she was very much like a romantasy reader, and she's like, oh my god, I love this book, it's so like romantic and sapphic. If you are like wanting like a sapphic romance and things like that, then you need to read this book. And I'm like, hell yeah. They're like, it's a little long, but it's so worth it. And I'm like, hell yeah, I am there. You just said it was sapphic and you just told me that it's long. And so at the time my mindset is like, oh my god, I'm about to read this like romance with fantasy in it. This is fantasy, babes. And it's not even fantasy with, okay, so it is fantasy with romance, but it's like a high fantasy with romance. Like it, like I needed a completely different mindset going into this book in order for me to have been in the mood to read this initially. I just think the tropification of it on TikTok just didn't do it justice. But I didn't realize that this book actually came out in like 2020. Like it came out like a while ago, right? Okay, no. So I was wrong. So this was first published in 2019, and then the paperback editions were published in 2020. I think that's kind of when everybody was kind of like getting into it. I think everyone like had the paperback version of it. And so, yeah, I was just kind of like so surprised when I initially went into it, and I was like, people lied to me, essentially. I was lied to. I was bamboozled and led astray. But I honestly, all in all, like I just was really surprised by it because I didn't actually read the back of this book when I bought it. I was just like, oh my god, they're reading it on TikTok, let me read it. Obviously, you can see I'm kind of a follower, my bad. One of like the blurbs on the back of the book, it says, brilliant, diverse, feminist, subversive, thought-provoking, and masterfully told. The Priory of the Orange Tree is epic fantasy at its finest. And then it says Shannon has taken the fantasy epic and breathed what the fuck, new life into it, allowing women's stories to take center stage where they belong, even in a world nothing like our own. And it didn't occur, like, it really didn't occur to me. This sounds so fucking stupid, but it didn't really occur to me until like I got into like the last third of the book how centered the women were in this stories. And obviously based off the fact that the summary includes the main three women that we're talking about, like, you would think that like my brain would connect that, but again, I was like, oh my god, there's gonna be kissing in it. So that's how I went into the story. But I think when I was like in the middle of reading it, I was like, wait, wow, there's like a lot of like really beautiful themes around like childbearing and a woman's right to choose her own path in her own way, the different ways a woman climbs through ranks and operates in the world. And there's specific roles that they've been prescribed since birth. Like they were all raised to do a certain thing, and it was all pre-planned for them. And some of them are like, okay, yes, I'm here to fulfill this destiny. And there's like a bit of betrayal and like in looking at the destiny that was technically chosen for them, And I think it's an interesting exploration on like how do you choose to go on with your life. I don't know. There's so much depth to it that I have yet to like put my thoughts into words for. But yeah, like in the end of it, like honestly, if I were to share this on TikTok and if I was like, hey, like here's this book, of course, like I would mention like the sapphic element to it, because I mean I think that's an important part for a lot of people, and I think this is like an essential part to like the overarching of the story, right? I think that's important. But I would have personally included those kind of feminist elements to it. I think that would have actually been really interesting for people to know, like the more feminist and women focused issues that are kind of being presented in the story. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there's so much opportunity to kind of share that with this, because it's rich with it, especially in that like last third of the book. I feel like from what I remember of like the first third of the book, it was just, I'm not gonna lie to you, it felt like an info dump. But it was essential at the same time, and I feel like you couldn't have like sped through it either. Yeah, but I really felt like the last third of the book was just like really, really super solid, and just like in that exploration of just women's issues and everything. And I don't know, I don't want to get too into it, because obviously I am trying to host that like book discussion, so I will let you guys know like my full-on thoughts in a formal review. Maybe I'll do like a mini review and then we'll have like a book discussion or something. I don't know. I'll figure that out. I'll plan it out. But surprisingly though, the most surprising part about reading Priory was the fact that it kind of energized me to read other things. I have one book that needs to go back to the library like ASAP. But it's like a really short read, and I actually have the energy to like read it now. That book, it's called Natural Beauty. It's by Ling Huang. I think that's how you say the last name, Huang. And it's pretty interesting. It's about this woman. She used to be a pianist, and something happened to her parents, in that she had to basically quit being a pianist. And she was like a well-decorated pianist, and something happened with her parents to where she had to give that dream up and just find another place of employment. And she was sitting there washing dishes, and this woman comes in and basically invites her to work at this like holistic beauty spa that's technically ran by a man, but the woman who approached her is like the face of like the spa. And so I feel like there's going to be some like really interesting themes around like beauty and maybe even race, because she is the only Asian person in the spa, even though that's kind of like, oh, this is our international spa type thing. It's really interesting so far. It's a very short read. I think it's like clocking in under 250 pages. So I'm probably gonna finish this today. And I don't know, I've been enjoying it so far. It's kind of like a page turner in a sense that like the writing style is really quick pace. Should be super easy to get through. I also downloaded a few audiobooks, kind of in preparation for October for Oh That Girl Reads. But let me talk to you about some of the books that I downloaded because I'm kind of excited. Also, I am about to prepare for my fourth reread of Cemetery Boys. I love Cemetery Boys, and it's the perfect season. Oh, okay. So it wasn't really spooky. So a friend of mine said that I need to try to read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So that is currently on my audiobook list. And that clocks in around 12 hours and 11 minutes. And then I am reading for spooky season The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. I'm surprised that I'm really enjoying the audiobook. This one clocks in around 7 hours and 4 minutes, but the audiobook and I guess the writing itself is just very atmospheric. And so I think this is like the perfect book to read. And then another audiobook that I got was All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. And that's a memoir. Someone on TikTok, they're talking about like the 23 for 23 challenge, their memoir reading list. I know there's like some debate about the 23 for 23 challenge and how, why do we need all these challenges to read books by BIPOC authors. I don't really have much of an opinion of that, to be honest. I know it is frustrating after a while to have to like feel like you're constantly like you feel after a while like, why can't people just read diversely all the time? And to that, I have a very complicated answer to. I understand the frustration, and I understand, like, in a way, there isn't any excuse, but in a way, there kind of is. Not an excuse, but there's an explanation, and it doesn't make it right or wrong. But, I tend to reject the conversations of, like, being negative towards people who need a little bit more of a push to read diversely. And it's not because I'm like, oh, you gotta baby people through things. I don't believe in that. But I do think there is, especially if you're like a person of color who doesn't read diversely, I think there is a lot to unravel with that journey. And in a way, it's kind of like not their fault. I don't know. I have a very long, very in-depth opinion of that. I just say that to say is that I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to say you're never, because I'm human and never say never. But I say that to say, as a promise to you, that I will always try to encourage you by leading by example. And I won't ever judge you for having to participate in something like this in order to expand your palette or expand your taste or explore books by people who are not like you. So yeah, I found All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson through a TikToker who was participating in the 23 for 23 challenge, and they had so many good just selections of memoirs. Memoirs can be kind of heavy. I mean, you can get really deep and personal with those things. But I'm really kind of excited to read something like this. I actually don't, funny enough, I feel like me personally, surprisingly, I don't read a lot of books about, I don't read a lot of books about Black men and Black boys. So that's why I'm kind of excited about The Taking of Jake Livingston, as well as All Boys Aren't Blue. It's just like a perspective. I read a lot about Black women and Latino boys and men, and then, but I also don't really read a lot about boys in general. But I think that's why I'm kind of excited to kind of like branch out in that way. So I'm super excited about that. So yeah, that's kind of like what I'm currently reading right now. Like, I'm actually reading stuff. So I'm not yet reading All Boys Aren't Blue and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I am actively reading The Taken of Jake Livingston and Natural Beauty. So now we have to talk about something, because I just feel so conflicted. I feel conflicted, guys. So as you know, based off of the last episode, I picked up Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is Elizabeth Acevedo's debut adult novel. I don't know if it's working for me currently. I don't know. Like, I tried reading it while I was sick. I think the pacing's weird. And I think it's because of like the dual, not dual, but like the multiple point of view situation. It's kind of not working for me right now, and I don't feel very grounded with any of the characters just yet. How far am I? Yeah, so I'm nearing a third, and I'm not quite like deep into it. I feel like everyone really enjoys it, but I also get like mixed reviews on it as well, that like it's kind of like they're not sure about it, or like they just didn't really gel with it as much as they wanted to. But I'm still gonna give it a chance. I'm gonna try to read it. I don't want to DNF it. The truth is I don't want to DNF it, but I also don't want to ruin the fact that I'm finally getting out of a reading slump. So it might just like take me a bit to get through that. But yeah, I'm really kind of enjoying like what I've been reading so far. But yeah, I was surprised that it was Priory. That was the book to get me out of a reading slump, because I was balls deep into this reading slump, dude. Like, I was just like so absolutely wrecked by this reading slump, and I haven't been like catching up on any of the reading that I actually need to do in terms of like giving reviews as an ARC reader. So I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm like failing so bad. And then like, you know, of course I want to get to like, you know, everything, and make sure that I'm like being very like communicative and fair with my authors and things like that. And obviously, like, too, on top of that, like, this is a reading podcast. Like, I need to talk to you guys about stuff. So it's kind of stressful. I think that's kind of like why the bi-weekly schedule works for me too, is because I can definitely finish a book in 2 weeks, even if I have to suffer through it. Like, I'll finish it, but you know. Thank you guys for joining me. I had so much fun. I'm glad to be back. I can't wait for you guys to listen to all these amazing upcoming episodes for October. I think your next episode, I think I will see you guys in October. Actually, 2 weeks from now, bi-weekly. I think that's how I work. I don't know. Yeah, but I will be talking to you guys soon. Thank you for being here. And remember, read what you love and DNF the rest. I will see you later. Thank you. Bye. So long, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. If you would like to see more, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Oh That Girl Reads. If you want more bookish content, feel free to check out my booktube channel, Bria L, on YouTube. Remember, read what you love and DNF the rest. Bye.